John Sparks. I'm the managing director of a company called Geoshield, the integrity testing, verification, and validation company. I've been being 57 years old. I've been in construction for a very, very long period of time. Initially, going back way back when, I started out stripping roofs, big industrial roofs,
Uh,
and reclaimed material and selling them on, usually in the UK and over through into Ireland, of all places. Throughout them, as the career moved on, eventually, after being an effective salesman, I guess, on coatings and waterproofing systems, I eventually ended up working for American Colloids out of Chicago.
nice.
So I've gone from working on the back of a pickup truck to having my office in Arlington Heights in Chicago. This is going well over a decade ago, but I was the regional director for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East of American Colloids division of Setco for the waterproofing element.
Yeah.
I left there in 2012, but during that period, I set up the field services division, which was the inspection arm of Setco for monitoring installations. Because
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in that you get the job done right, you already got the next job coming in.
Yeah.
And that completed some massive projects like Karolinska Hospital in Sweden or New York University in Abu Dhabi. So one was in the desert, the other's in the snow. Great big tunnels throughout Spain and projects in the Far East and South America. So it's been quite a varied journey.
So you travelled then?
It's a constant case, and I'm still getting responses back from clients right now. So we're still active on integrity testing in Singapore and in the Philippines, other places in the Far East. We've just completed projects in Slovakia, yeah. So and Croatia. It's an exciting time to be in construction right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said about roofing. I didn't know you did. I didn't know you were involved in the roofing world. Obviously, I spent a long time within roofing, just short of 10 years in total. But it's an industry that extremely fond of, and I think that you're obviously yourself then. So when you say you were stripping roofs, you were literally going in and then were you refurbing them or just stripping the material and shipping it?
Stripping the roof, taking the slate off, and selling it on. That's when I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
All those great big factories in Bermontoffs and places like that in Leeds, we would actually just go and reclaim all the material and move it
Uh,
on.
you were doing it. Was it legal? You weren't just going and ripping roofs off and shipping it out.
It was 100% legal, absolute 100% legal. Yeah,
Ah,
there was no mobile phones on the side of our vans.
oh man, I love it. That's
Yeah,
good then. And then America came. So that's a big shift. That is a big shift. Were you actively looking
well,
at the
there
time,
was
or did the opportunity just come along?
no, there was gradations in as the career expanded through working with Courtaulds Coatings on the shipping lines, on their deck coatings, then through to a old company that many people in our region may remember called Grab, which was actually a floor coating company that was purchased by Dong Chemicals eventually. Then moving across to WR Grace, possibly the world's largest bituminous membrane waterproofing manufacturer as was, and then across to American Colloids. Yeah.
And then the idea then of the inspection side of the business then was that your idea, or was that an idea that was generated by the business you're working in, and then you led it, or did you have a big input into what that vision looked like?
No, I can remember the exact time at a meeting in Segovia in Madrid, where we'd been to one of the factories, that I went to the back of the transport bus and spoke to the CEO of the company from America and put the suggestion across because I couldn't understand what qualified a salesman to do the inspections. I come from an installation side of the business and entered into the sales side. So I had an idea of what we was doing and what were the hindrances and why things go wrong and how to actually get the installation done right in the first place.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I got the feeling that unfortunately, during that period in time, a lot of sales guys were or salespeople were journeymen. They spent 18 months at one company and 18 months at another, and truly didn't really give the let's say look at the installations in what they were really about to achieve. They
Yeah.
were more interested in miller time than getting it right for the guys, project managers of the site. So I set about changing that mindset.
Which is makes sense now. Which is obviously where Geoshield does a lot of this work. Which we'll come on to that in a minute. So
Mhm.
so your journey then ended up in America. So then after America, then you were obviously quite entrepreneurial type of person. You had
Sorry,
different.
just to
Oh,
say, the parent company was in America. I was working in Europe and Africa.
right. Okay. Right. Okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. So then the journey then from there. So how long ago was this then? When did you finish your time up in America?
2012, 12 years
Right.
ago.
So it's right. Okay then. And then where did that then take you on to after that?
I did some advisory projects for a screed manufacturer out of Belgium, setting up once again their quality assurance programming, which was very successful. It brought in some massive UK clients, but it was only filling the gap until I actually put the things in place for what I wanted for the creation of Geoshield. The whole focus actually of leaving was to create a competent on-site quality assurance programming specialists,
Yeah.
specifically for waterproofing and hazardous ground gas.
So you had this idea then was bubbling away for a while.
Well, it was when I was involved in, and I'll name drop again one project like New York University in Abu Dhabi, that was British people at Carillion, if we all remember the old
Oh,
Carillion,
yeah.
going back now, in a JV with Alpha Tame. But the guys were British and they were turning around and they were saying, for crying out loud, why haven't we got this in the UK? Why haven't we got people showing us exactly what we're doing and signing the areas off? But
Yeah.
most importantly, telling us how it's going to go wrong. Yeah, because it's going to go wrong whether you pick it up or not. But if you've picked it up, then you can prepare for the worst to happen. And
Which
it's all
then
cost savings.
sparked the idea then for so you're working on GeoShield, kind of the thought behind it. You thought you were going to an opportunity to bring this back to the UK.
Well, there was, but I was also aware of several steering committees, and I knew that Syria had in place that they was actually putting together guidance on verification and validation for the installation of hazardous ground gas protection systems. And I know that British standards were about to be revised for hazardous ground gas protection systems, which would incorporate the Syria document.
Right.
So I had knowledge that in about 2 years' time of when the kernel of my idea was there, it was going to become live. It's
Yeah.
simply going to come live, and the phone calls would be happening for integrity testing companies, and we were already doing that at the highest level. It
Yeah.
just we were doing waterproofing, not hazardous ground gas.
Yeah. 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 So obviously, GeoShield was born then off the back of these ideas. So you could
Yeah.
maybe do a lot. You had an idea of how things could be done better. So what did that journey look like right at the beginning? Then was it you? Was it a team of others?
I had an idea of the people I wanted to bring with me, but I had no money. So Geoshield was set up, but because I travelled so extensively, I had a lot of credit available on credit cards.
Right.
you know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the circumstance led that I lived on credit cards for nearly 2 years, paid my mortgage with credit cards, borrowed money. I worked on a desk in my kitchen, very, very late hours, just me creating in the end what I wanted to be a corporate like structure to offer some professionalism to the industry. But
Yeah.
once sufficient money started to be generated, then it allowed me to bring in the senior engineers of the on site quality assurance programming that I used in the Middle East and in Scandinavia.
So your
So
links, your
those people
connections.
joined Geoshield.
Yeah, and all these would all kind of help towards the journey of where you are. So let's fast forward then a little bit. Obviously, we met last year, I believe. It was through LinkedIn, wasn't it? I was at Langley at the time, and you guys were doing, you were talking to us about roof inspections. And I took a look at your website and I look at the work that you do. And I never knew of this. And this is why I think it's important that we get a little bit of a backstory of this and what it is. Because me, working in the roofing game, didn't know of that. So that's quite an interesting point, which means how many more of me is there? And I can imagine there's quite a lot. So it'd be good to just get a quick overview then of the business and what it does and how it can help people, really.
Well, if I could just explain very quickly what is a little bit of confusion in the industry, and that's what's the difference between integrity testing, validation, and verification. Depending on what the science is and the field you're talking about, the terms validation and verification can be reversed. But in our industry, validation is what is actually carried out inside the office. When you put a specification together, when you choose a system to perform the protection against said risk, and then the design details are created. When you put that whole equation together and say, yes, this will perform, that's validation. When it gets to the construction site and it's in the hands of somebody physically doing the job, from mixing membranes, for example, if they're a coating, or applying primers, or the whole gamut of what goes on the construction site, that's verification. In roofing, the verification is often termed as integrity testing, because you'll get there when the product's actually already applied. Now, what we have here is two instances. We have insurance company clauses, and we have building control working to building regulations, doing an extremely valid and valuable job. I don't want to undermine building control. What we do is completely separate. So if you look under, for example, NHBC clauses, LABC clauses, Premier Guarantee clauses, I could go on and on and on, not naming everybody. But in there, under effectively what we will say is the insurances, it will say, in order to get insurance by us for this installation on the roof, let's say a blue roof, a green roof, you will need third-party independent integrity testing of the waterproofing layer, the crucial element that's going to stop everything below getting damaged. I mean, if you imagine putting on an attenuation tank, basically a blue roof installation, an attenuation tank on a green on a roof deck, and that leaks, and you've got a data center underneath it, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more in shutdown and repair than it ever will in the roof installation in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's it, really, Dan.
It's good to know when
It works alongside building control. Yeah,
yeah,
not instead
absolutely.
of.
And when I said about my work was in refurbishment, a lot was in refurbishment, and I just think because of that, it wasn't the type of thing that we'd see. We'd be going up onto school roofs and we'd be refurbing a school roof. Felt would go back over the top of it, and then you'd move on. Whereas I think a lot of what you speak about, it's having the secondary test, the leak detection test. It's all these things to make sure before the systems are buried that they're not leaking. And like you say, if you're going to bury the system, you want to make sure it's not leaking. So I guess, had an idea, but with new builds especially not being my remit, I didn't come across it as much. But I did. I learned a lot, and it was really good. And even speaking to you guys at the time, it was nice to know that there's all this other world out there to explore. So, which then takes us on to
Can I just add, though?
Yeah, of course you can.
Sorry, Dan, if I could just add, we do existing integrity testing too. So if you're a facilities manager and you got a shopping mall and the roof's leaking, yeah, we can come in on 24 hours notice and electronic leak detect, even in the rain, to find out where the system's been compromised.
So that's awesome, isn't it? That is, really, really good kind of service to have there, definitely. And anyone that's listening, which obviously, hopefully there will be, absolutely, it's a great opportunity to come and get leak tests done. But your business is way bigger than just roofing. I know I use roofing as an example because obviously that was what we met through. But you started to talk to me about radon and all these other things, and this was when it was a bit above my kind of level in terms of what I know. I know very little about it, but Just talk to us a little bit about that, about the radon side and protecting of the soil. I think you were talking about like soil and when things are dug up, but I might be talking nonsense here, but I'll pass it back to you.
Well, you're right in bringing this up because it is very, very important and possibly one of the major changes within our industry back in 2003 is what I'm going to lead up to. But originally, when we were looking at waterproofing and hazardous ground gas protection is often within the same line of protection. Sometimes the systems do the same thing, or historically they did. And so, if you was actually going to put any kind of protection into a structure, you've got to know what the risk is and what you're protecting against. Waterproofing, of course, you're protecting the structure from being unstable. You don't want the rebar inside concrete corroding and the structure coming down. But also, you don't want water coming into the building and destroying everything in said building. Plus another 1,000 reasons why. But hazardous ground gas is actually preventing ill health or, at worst, fatalities, because these things are very, very serious contaminants that could be entering your structure. Yeah, there was a massive change in 2023 and the product which was, the guidance which was changed is referred to in Building Regulations Document C, hence its importance.
Is
Because
this the
remember, you can choose
BR211
any
then
design.
you're talking about?
Yes, Building Research Establishment Document BR211. Guidance is only guidance, remember. You can choose if you don't want to use guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah? But you have to give reasons why you've made that choice.
yeah,
So whether you choose British standards, NHBC guidelines, Building Research Establishment guidelines, or anything else, you have to give a reason why you've actually made that choice. But this document is mentioned in building regulations. Document C.
how clued up do you think people are? I mean, you do a lot of talks on this. Do you think this is a topic that is just, well, like people are super undereducated on it? Like, do you go to sites and realise, wow, there's still so many people who don't realise the importance of it?
Well, if you go back to the start of our conversation, you know that I mentioned that I was aware of Syria changing their documents for hazardous ground gas in 2014, which were
Yeah,
eventually mentioned in British Standards 8485 in 2015. One document had to be created in order that it could be mentioned in the next document. In that document, they had a scoring system in place that stated if you didn't have third party integrity testing, you got 0 points for the membrane which was actually installed. And as it's a points led system, then you won't be able to occupy said structure. Okay, so that's the basics for CO2 and methane, the requirements there. But with regards to radon was seen as more like a poor family member that just throw some damp proof membrane in and we'll be okay. But the guidance actually said so much more. Absolutely. The gentleman who wrote the original document and then headed the revisions for all the other changes that came up from 1991 to 2015 did some genius work. A gentleman called Chris Sivia. But there were some issues with the 2015 document that only came to light after publication. And once it was actually printed, it's then stuck in time. Can you understand what I mean? It's there, it's a finished document, it's not moving with
yeah, yeah,
modern technology.
yeah,
And so there had to be a push forward. But in the document of 2015, they had right at the back of the guidelines, back of 84 or 85, 45 pages of maps, was something called Appendix B, which was the Radon Protective Measures Quality Management Checklist, which introduced quality assurance programming from concept to completion. From concept to completion, and it was just ignored. Or
yeah,
people weren't aware of it because it was right at the back of all these maps.
yeah.
And that had to change.
It's interesting. So, a lot of your work then at the moment, like you do a lot of talks. I've seen kind of your journey, what you're up to. I was on even stuff like this, coming on here and talking. Do you feel like a lot of it is a lot of education that you're still doing? And also, who's the target client in this situation? Is it the developers? Is it the architects, the main contractors? When you're doing your talks, who are you aiming them at? Everybody?
Well, first of all, what we're trying to educate is best practice. We're not actually asking for anything to be done which hasn't been requested
Yeah.
historically before. So what we've done is to change the emphasis. So people can no longer say, oh, I wasn't aware that needed to be carried out.
Yeah.
So in the new document, the BR211 2023, in every initial paragraph for every section of that document, it says you must fill out the Radon Protective Measures Quality Management Record, which allocates responsibility from concept to completion. Okay, they can't ignore it; it's there. And so, if, for example, there was the worst case scenario that somebody died of lung cancer, because that's the risk, you would be able to look at historically what has gone on from design to completion and who made those decisions on the level of protection that was in the said structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for example, if you're building a house in Leeds or Bradford and you know the postcode, you can put the postcode into ukradon.org, which is the UK Health Security Agency. It will tell you what your risk is. I apologise, my dog's barking. But that will tell you what the risk is. Okay, now that risk is identified as the percentage number of houses within a square kilometre which could have a action level above 200 becquerels, which is the level of radon concentration within 1 cubic metre.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there you go. So if you are working on 0 to 3%, you don't need any radon protection. If you're
Yeah.
3% to 10%, you need basic protection. Anything above 10%, you need full protection.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've learned something there.
It's
Anyway.
I said a lot of words there. I apologise, but the risk to health is simply well. Let me say what the UK HSA and the HSE state. They expect 1,100 deaths per annum in the United Kingdom from lung cancer related to radon
That's
entering your
crazy.
structure.
Yeah. Is that true?
And
That's crazy.
that's not said at tea time on the news every day. Yeah.
No,
But this is how much of an effect it is.
it's quite incredible. It is quite incredible. And if there's people not like you, John, banging the drum and keeping people aware of it, then yeah, it'll keep getting worse. It's true, isn't it? We when I was involved, especially with roofing, I do refer to roofing just because that's what I spent a lot of my career in. There's a lot of guidance in roofing, but still, there's stuff that people go, I didn't know that, or I shouldn't do that. Even when it comes to, things as simple as fire, mitigating fire. There's guidance in there to say don't use
Yeah.
fire in this place. Yeah, you can go to site and there's people waving massive torches round in window areas, and it's like, and it's like it's that. And yes, we still have to do CPD. We had to go out every week do CPDs to architects, to building surveyors, to warn them this is it. You can burn your buildings down, and they'll sit there and go, "Well, we didn't know." And that's where I think your mission in what you're doing it'll be forever.
Can I ask something? I mean, just to let you know about the radon side of it. The radon is a heavy inert gas that doesn't react with anything. Right? So you think, what's the problem with it? It's the half life. As it breaks down in its half life, it's the radioactive isotopes which are emitted. They're called the radon daughters. The radioactive isotopes, if they get through to your lung lining, that's where they're going to cause you problems. Okay, so we're actually looking at radiation here, and the UK HSA state that 50% of radiation in your house that's going to cause you a problem, or potentially will, comes from radon. That's 50%.
Can I ask a question on
And
radon?
previously,
Just
in the past, sorry,
yeah,
you did ask me, well, who's my market, and my market is the regulators, really,
yeah,
the contaminated land officers, the local authorities, the building control guys. They should be going to their main contractor and saying, "Can I see your your radon protective measures quality management record or your plan to achieve it?"
yeah, yeah.
Because it's there and it's referred to in building regulations to go to BR211.
And make him accountable. Just on radon, where does it? I know it's a very basic question, but for many people that will listen, like me, where's it come from? Like what is it coming from the ground and then it comes up when there's new buildings being built? Like, just explain that process of where it's forming from and how it gets up into our zone.
All soils on planet Earth, that's all soils, contain a certain amount of uranium. When uranium breaks down, it will break down through several processes and it eventually gets to stable lead. Yeah, that's the end product. But one of the systems you get from uranium is to ruthenium, breaks down again into its half life. It then becomes radon. As radon breaks down through its half life, and radon's half life is only 3.8 days. Yeah, but then when that breaks down in its half life, or for the layman's terms, decays, when it decays in its half life, it actually turns into polonium. And then eventually you get through different degrees of decay all the way down to stable lead. But when radon breaks up into in its half life, it gives off, for example, one isotope which is polonium 218. So polonium 218, radioactive isotope, flies around in the radon dust, and you breathe that in. So when you look at other hazardous ground gases, which are very, very dangerous, like CO2, which can kill you, or methane, which will blow you up, but that's actually a physical gas that you can see. We are talking about a radioactive element entering your structure, and it comes from every soil on planet Earth.
So it's
So
soil.
every building is at risk. There is no exception. It's just grading what the risk is.
And
Yeah,
is it from
because
digging?
as
Would it
soon
be
as you
from
put a box on top of it,
And
sorry,
would
say
it be
it.
from digging? Would it be from putting in diggers into grounds and starting to disrupt the soil that's there? Is that what would form it or release it?
I mean, if you're in the open air, it's regardless. It just goes off into the atmosphere. But if you put a structure sat on top, capturing the radon, not letting it disperse in its natural way, then eventually the radon concentration is going to build up.
Right.
So what BR211 states is you have a sealed protection system underneath. In the past, it would have been a damp-proof membrane of 1200 gauge for the guys who are old like me, 300 microns for the
See, I remember
young
that. That's what we used to
whippersnappers.
sell rolls of back in my
Yeah,
builders merchant days. Have a roll of Visqueen.
well, this Queen's a very good brand. But what happened, Dan, was that I won't say all, I'll just say some, using the sum as an example, would pick and choose guidance. Pick and choose. They would open said document, look at page one, 1200 gauge, bang, we've got radon covered. We'll have a look into the back of the document, look in the maps, and see the map showing what the radon risk was way back in 2015. Remember, you might be building in 2019, but we find out what the risk level is. We've got it covered. And then not look at any of the other document and miss out so much of the guidance. So historically, British construction were not following the guidance contained. They were picking and choosing. And that includes me, includes everybody. We're all picking and choosing. I can never remember seeing an Appendix B, radon protective measures quality management record being correctly filled out, in fact, ever filled out at all, ever presented to anybody. But now it's required. Yeah, it's required to be done. And it's
Good.
not a big thing. It's not a big thing. It's just
No.
the collection of data.
Yeah, it's good. And do you know what, John? It's things like this, isn't it? Like I say, we didn't met, like we'd not met before, and I caught up with you and started to understand a little bit more about it. Then you've done your talks, then you've joined the Constructing Excellence, and and we're going to get you on the podcast to talk about it, even just talking about it, because now as even like me, we work as building surveyors. We get jobs and projects where huge areas of land are churned up to put big extensions on. All this will come into play in conversation. And next time something happens, it gives me the ability to just ask the question. And the more people that can get doing that, it's like anything, innit? The more people can learn. And I'm all about learning about new things in our industry. But
Well,
just,
can I just say, in
of
our
course,
region, Dan, we are often leaders in the construction world in this field. In fact, from the Scottish borders down to the Midlands, all the guidance comes under the Yorkshire. It's called YALPAG, Yorkshire and Humberside Pollution Advisory Group. Well, they're always changing it. It could be Pollution Advisory Council now, but we're actually giving the guidelines out there for the
from
rest of the
here,
country.
from Yorkshire.
From here, from
Oh,
here,
yeah,
because
proud
you
of.
think of the radon really comes out of all soils, but the emphasis is really from granite-based soils. So granite rock, etc. You're really going to have high concentrations down on the southwest dogleg.
Yeah,
You also get it from the old mining seams, and throughout Britain, sorry, throughout our region, we've got old mining seams all over the place. Yeah. I had one house that I had tested in Castleford for a friend, and where the target level is 100 becquerels. That's the measurement for radon. The action level is 200 becquerels, which means do something about it. His reference exceeded 12,000 in his basement.
wow, that's a
In his
lot.
basement. Yeah, we don't really carry out the testing levels. We're in new build construction,
Yeah,
but I would definitely recommend anybody who's worried, getting in touch with the Radon Council, which I'm a board member, but I'm involved in new build construction, or getting in touch with the UK Radon Association, and the Radon Association will certainly be able to give you advice on it too.
so that's brilliant, John. That's brilliant. So just moving
Oh,
on.
of that, Dan, could I just mention the difference between the
Yes, yeah.
two? The UK Radon Association is a trade body. The Radon Council is a self-regulatory body over anybody who's actually interested in best practice for protecting against radon in the industry.
Okay.
So you could have lawyers there, you could have the UK HSA there, the HSE, Environment Agency, anybody that's actually there, including main contractors, the list goes on. It's not people just performing a functioning rate, but people who want to actually improve
Yeah,
construction. That's the Radon Council.
that's
And
fine. No,
anyone's
that's
welcome to
good to know.
attend the meeting.
Good to know. It's funny, isn't it? All these things that go on in the world every day. You think you're so kind of like caught up in your world. You think you know everything, and I'm like, wow, there's a whole radon council going on. Like I would have had no idea. So it's good to hear. But just as on this just this next patch, Geoshield then as a business,
Hmm.
what's its future? I mean, obviously, have you got long term plans for the business? Are you looking? Because obviously, you do a bit overseas. You've obviously got a bit of like I said, internationally known, locally respected. But is there a long term vision with GeoShield and what you'd like to see it be doing in the next 10 years?
Geoshield really exists for people making decisions which have caused problems, and human error is going to continue. Why I say that? I mean, for example, in the 1980s, all the coal mines closed down. Certain amount of gas problems are now going to occur because these mines are flooded. You can see where I'm leading to. So one decision leads to the creation of an industry. Unfortunately, when you have things like Grenfell, it highlights a lack of documentation on what's required. Elsewhere in Britain, there's been examples of whole housing estates having to be demolished because of human occupants' health being at risk.
Yeah,
This is reality. Yeah? So what is created an industry. So the industry is going to be ongoing in this section, because I don't see how it can take a step back anymore.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to live in that building with your family, surely you're going to want it to be the best possible protection that you have.
Yeah. Fair
By
play.
the way, if you feel you've got a radon problem, open your windows and let the thing out. There's always a quick fix just for now. But as soon as you close your windows, you have a confined space again.
It's
But
good. No, it's
leading
brilliant.
off that, if you think every time that you've improved thermal insulation in your building, you've created rising air, because
Yeah.
hot air rises.
Yeah.
So you've got a suction factor below that. If the membrane's not right, you're actually now sucking in all those contaminants into your building.
Yeah.
The one design thing has created a need from another one.
Yeah, absolutely has, hasn't it? Yeah, it's a good point. Create a greenhouse of just bad
So
gases.
I think we're going to be involved for a long time. I mean, we're now extended into stormwater management, because in the SUDS manual, this actually comes from the green roof installations originally, because we're so heavily involved in green roof and blue roofs that the SUDS manual for what's actually sat on a blue roof is applicable for if it's subterranean.
Yeah.
And chapter 30 of the SUDS manual for stormwater management says that the waterproofing liners should be third party integrity tested. You by all means test it yourself if you're the installer, but it should be signed off by a third party. Otherwise, the soil around that attenuation tank, if it leaks and effectively becomes a soak away, well, the soils around it could become unstable and your car park could collapse, for one instance. So,
Yeah, you're
throughout
right.
the industry, we're there.
I'll
It's
be,
just asking for third party integrity testing ongoing.
I like it. Look, John, if people want to get hold of you, what's the best way?
Well, the head office is in Leeds. I know I'm speaking here from for the Yorkshire Group, but the head office in Leeds. We've got offices throughout Britain, but most of those are actually during the day unmanned, because the engineers are out doing verification and integrity testing. We've got 20 guys out there at the moment. There should be about 30 by the end of the year. It takes 6 months to train an integrity testing officer up. Please get in touch with me direct at jsparks@geoshield.co.uk.
Yep.
You can direct message me on LinkedIn. I'm always checking the DMs on LinkedIn. Please do that. I will always respond. And also, if anybody's looking for a career, genuinely,
Nice.
or you know of anybody, please get in touch with us at careers@geoshield.co.uk, because
Oh,
this is a
brilliant.
growing industry and you could have a career for life.
Brilliant. Oh, I love that. I
A
love
career for
that.
saving lives. A career for
Yeah.
saving lives. I've got a
Yeah.
tagline. There we go.
Well, look, John, it's been amazing for you to come on and explain it. This is a topic that can be spoken about. There's so much more I know that we can be spoken about, but just that snippet is enough to get people to go towards Geoshield and have a look at the work that you do. I think, this is the Constructing Excellence Yorkshire and Humber podcast, but we do put it out on YouTube. So we do go, it likely gets seen by many more people. But even just that one snippet is really good. And then, like I say, later on in the year, we'd love you to come on and actually do a live talk, which I know that you're up for that, because we've spoken about that before.
Can I also say that we do have extensive technical backup, whether it's myself or any of the other engineers. We're very happy to perform educational seminars at their premises or online anywhere in Britain. We don't charge for these.
Also,
We will be at
CPD
Hazardous Ground Gas
sessions.
Scotland this year as well.
Okay.
Pardon?
Yeah, CPD sessions, people
Yeah.
will absolutely get involved with these, because they're, surveyors, architects, designers, contract. Everybody needs a good CPD, so that's good news if you do them.
Well, we're CPD accredited, so
Brilliant.
you get your points.
Well, look, John, we're going to sign off. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and we'll catch up with you shortly.
Thank you very much for allowing me these few moments. Thanks, Dan.
No.
Thank you.